Alright guys, today is an episode of The Best of the Rest, covering some of the weekends and last week's European Championship qualifier action that I haven't already covered. I've made a few videos, but we'll get straight into it with Slovenia managing to come from behind to beat Kazakhstan by 2-1. And this was a game where Kazakhstan actually started the game the better side. I think that they earned their half-time lead with a goal through Samorodov, and it was brilliant play for the goal, brilliant from Vorogovsky to find the space, had to do this sort of shift onto his left foot to get the cross in, and it was a brilliantly worked goal to put Kazakhstan 1 goal up. And yeah, they thoroughly deserved it. I thought Slovenia's supply and creativity just wasn't there at all in the first half. Benjamin Sesko in particular wasn't really getting any service, nor was his partner up front, Sela. And I just thought Kazakhstan were a lot better. They used their wing backs really well in a three at the back system. There was lots of energy, and yeah, the first half it was the perfect game plan. But the problem for them was they played a brilliant first half, but the one thing they needed to do in the second half was just get through the first 5 or 10 minutes and build that momentum back, because obviously when Slovenia, who are, I'm not going to say a better team than Kazakhstan, because I think given the result yesterday against Denmark, that's a bit harsh on them, but have got more recognisable players and maybe players who are used to playing in higher quality leagues. They can use their quality at any moment, and they did that right at the start of the second half to get the equaliser, and eventually got the winner with a debut goal from Vipotnik, which was a brilliant moment for him, and it was a brilliant goal as well to make it 2-1. And yeah, I would say that there was actually not the best marking for the first goal for both teams, really, from a defensive point of view. I think both could have picked up their man at least a little bit better, or maybe if you're not doing man-to-man, like if you're doing zonal marking, definitely like have covered areas a bit more evenly, or dangerous areas, but had there been a bit more focus on them. So yeah, I think it was a little bit questionable defensively at times, but yeah, it was a good game to watch, and I wasn't overly surprised at Kazakhstan's result yesterday, given how well they did play in the first half of this game, because I was expecting Slovenia, even though they're not exactly a great team, I was expecting, given the fact that they have come close to qualifying, and they have qualified for a big tournament in recent years. I think they got to South Africa 2010, which wasn't too long ago. I know none of those players are in the team anymore, but they have got some well recognisable players, Jan Oblak, Benjamin Sesko, to name a couple. But yeah, Kazakhstan, they gave it a really good go, but in the end it was a hard-earned win for Slovenia. They had to work hard to get it in the end, but to be fair, they did have a massive improvement after the break, Slovenia. So yeah, I think in the end that they fully, well, I wouldn't say fully, but they did enough to get themselves back into the game and go on to win it in the end. But Kazakhstan, for how low ranked they are in the world rankings, they're I think around 110th. I wouldn't begrudge them being moved up in the next rankings, because I think it's a bit harsh, because there are teams like, for instance, I think Cyprus are of a similar ranking, yet when they played Scotland the other day, I'll talk about that game more in a minute, but they really didn't put up much of a fight. So I think Kazakhstan are a better team than they are recognised for being, if that makes sense. But yeah, Slovenia were the favourites to win this game, and I mean they got the job done eventually. But I think Kazakhstan definitely learned something from this game, and that is you cannot switch off straight after half time when you are a goal up. So yeah, it's a learning curve. And then the second game I wanted to cover today was Montenegro going away to Bulgaria and managing to get a huge 1-0 win to kick off their qualifying campaign. And this was a huge result for them. And it was quite an even game. Two very different styles of football on show. The first half, Bulgaria, they dominated most of the possession early on and, really tried to sort of pegged Montenegro back into their own half, and they were actually quite expansive with it, and used fullbacks really well in terms of getting the ball out wide and really spreading the play, not just vertically but also horizontally as well, out wide, using fullbacks well. But they never really troubled Montenegro too much. There were a few times where they got into good positions, but they were never able to punish Montenegro. Despodov, I thought, was probably Bulgaria's best attacking player throughout the game. He did cause a lot of threat to Montenegro's defence at quite a few occasions, but Montenegro, they probably have the more experienced players in their squad, with the likes of Stefan Savic, Stevan Jovetic as well, Haksabanovic. They have got a fair few players who are used to playing at a reasonably high level, whereas I don't think Bulgaria have got that same level of experience at the top as Montenegro had. I mean, if you look maybe 10-15 years ago, Bulgaria had some brilliant players. I mean, Dimitar Berbatov, superb. Petrov too. So they're probably not quite the same team now as they were, but it's still not a bad team. And in the first half, Montenegro, they were mostly relying on counter-attacks to try and score goals, and up until maybe the last 5 minutes of the first half, that they weren't really pushing forward, rather that they were focused on not conceding. But they did come close to scoring right at the end of the half. Stefan Savic in particular, on another day, could have scored, but it was denied via a brilliant save. But in the second half, Montenegro, they made a couple of substitutions at halftime, bringing on Jovetic, and it just seemed to give them a bit more belief. And I don't know if the manager decided to change the game plan in terms of attack a bit more. Let's stop Bulgaria having the ball so much and so easily as well, without the pressure, because Montenegro weren't putting that much pressure on Bulgaria. So when they had more of the ball, it just suited them a lot more. And in the end, they got the goal. It was really well set up by another substitute in Jovovic, who plays a really cool, well-timed ball to Krstovic, because in that moment he could have, sort of not lost his head, but lost his composure maybe. But he definitely picked the right decision, and Krstovic was able to score. I mean, it wasn't the best finish ever. He put it straight at the defender on the line, so he got a bit of luck with that. It managed to squirm through him. Didn't really pick a corner so much, but in the end, he got a bit of luck with it, but managed to score. And Bulgaria, I thought, after the positive first half they had, it was actually a little bit disappointing how they went about the second half with, just not dominating as much. I know Montenegro changed their game plan, but I felt as though Bulgaria, if they'd stuck to their original game plan and maybe tried to take advantage of Montenegro not being camped in their own half, I think they could have got some success from that. But they only really tried to get a goal in the second half once they had conceded. And they did come close on a few occasions, right at the end especially. But in the end, it wasn't enough. And I think, if they had have tried to score in the second half in the first 20 minutes, or been a bit more positive in how they played, I think they could. This match could have had a very different outcome, to be honest. But in the end, it just wasn't to be for Bulgaria. But a brilliant result nonetheless for Montenegro, though. And then Scotland beat Cyprus 3-0, as I mentioned earlier. And this was a game where Scotland played some really good football in the first half, actually. And I think the best example of that is actually the goal scored by John McGinn. It started out with Kieran Tierney playing the ball into Stuart Armstrong, and it's a really nice pass through ball to Robertson. And the bit of luck with the cross, takes deflection right into the path of McGinn. Bit of tidy finish. And Scotland, they were playing some really nice football in the first half, and I thought there were three players in particular on actually the right side of Scotland's team, not just in defence but in midfield as well. I thought Aaron Hickey, Kieran Tierney and Ryan Jack all looked really good on the ball. Porteous as well. You know, it was something I haven't really seen from Scotland before, where they I don't know if it is just because it's a lower quality opponent, but you know, they looked like they could play a bit of football. They looked good on the ball, which, you know, is a really good sign. And yeah, they continued that way for the first half. Cyprus, they're clearly, you know, not on Scotland's level, but I thought they weren't horrendously bad. Like, they could knock the ball about a bit, but they weren't really creating any chances. There were a couple of good players who stood out to me, like Artimitas and Castanos, who looked quite good, but they were never really going to trouble Scotland, really. And in the second half, Scotland, you know, they sort of slowed it down a bit, and I think their energy levels dropped a little bit, but they did play some really good football in the first half. And the fresh legs that Steve Clarke introduced, they really made a difference in terms of just giving Scotland a bit of energy again. And I think the second goal typifies this more than anything as well, with Ryan Christie crossing it into Lyndon Dykes, who heads it down for Scott McTominay to score. 3 substitutes and 3 very crucial parts to a very good goal, because pretty much all parts of that goal were really well taken. The tackle, tackle/interception from Christie, and the fact he kept the ball in play and crossed, really good cross, and it was a nice cushioned header from Dykes as well. And 2 tidy finishes from McTominay as he got a second a few minutes later to make it 3-0. And yeah, I don't even know if that's the quickest double McTominay scored in his career, because I do seem to remember about 2 or 3 years ago now, Man United played Leeds at Old Trafford, I think, and I think they won 6-2, and McTominay scored 2 goals in like the first 4 minutes of that game. So that might not even be the fastest double that he scored in his career somehow. But yeah, the red card at the end of the game from Ioannou for Cyprus was just stupid, really. No other word for it. You know, when you're 3-0 down and you're on a yellow, the last thing you do is boot the ball away when the referee's blown his whistle. I mean, he's going to miss the next game, and what's the point? It is really stupid from him, to be honest. But yeah, there was a little talking point in this game from the Premier League point of view, with Che Adams going off injured, and you know, if it is a bad injury, and it didn't look great, but if he does miss the next few games, that's huge for Southampton, because I think Che Adams is a player who, he gets a lot of stick, but I think he's a better player than a lot of people give him credit for. Yes, his finishing is very inconsistent, and you know, he's not a reliable goal scorer, but his hold-up play, his ability to bring others into play, I think that is an underrated part of his game, and something that Southampton will miss in the next few games if he is out with injuries. They don't really have many replacements for him in that position. I know they have some good wide players like El Yunusi, Suleiman, who else they got? They signed Orsic, but he hasn't really featured much. Theo Walcott, I think he could possibly step in, but you know, he will be a miss, Che Adams, if he is out injured. So yeah, that's definitely not good for Southampton going forward, I don't think. And then Switzerland beat Belarus by 5-0. Interestingly, Switzerland have now actually won and lost their last 2 games by 5 goals, with the round of 16 6-1 loss to Portugal in December. And this game started off lively. Belarus hit the woodwork inside a minute. In fact, both teams hit the woodwork in the first 3 minutes of the game. But Switzerland were lucky enough that their rebound from hitting the post fell right into the path of Renato Steffen for what will be the easiest goal he will ever score in his life. And by 28 minutes, he'd score 3. And I'll be honest, the second one was a good finish, but the first and the third were, very similar. And in truth, all 3 goals were similar-ish, all coming from down the left-hand side, and there was a really nice sort of trio of players for Switzerland down the left of Ricardo Rodriguez at left-back, Granit Xhaka on the left side of midfield, and also Vargas on the left wing, and they combined really well, and they basically took it in turns to play crosses into the box at times. And Renato Steffen got his hat-trick, 25-minute hat-trick, I think, from the 3rd to the 28th minute. And, the easiest hat-trick he'll ever score. If I'm comparing it to a hat-trick, there's one that always stands out for me. Dirk Kuyt scored one. Obviously, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I'm going to always go back to Liverpool when it comes to these examples. But Dirk Kuyt scored a hat-trick against Man United in March 2011, around about 12 years ago. This month, and it was quite similar. Even Firmino against Watford last season, it just like a hat-trick of tap-ins. But that was game done and dusted, really. And Belarus, in truth, their highlight of the game came after about 59 seconds. So it wasn't a great game for them. They were far too easy to penetrate, especially down the right of their defence from like Switzerland's left, if that makes sense. And after half time, Switzerland, they reduced the intensity a bit, but managed to score a couple more through Granit Xhaka, who was my man of the match for this game. I thought he was absolutely superb, got a goal, 2 assists as well from midfield. You can't ask for much more. And I mean, even just thinking about the transformation he's made to his game over the past 3 or 4 years, I think Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit for that, because he seems to just have unlocked these attacking abilities and found that Xhaka is better in a more advanced position. And fair play to Arteta and also obviously Granit Xhaka for that, because his passing ability is something that is very overlooked in his game. He is superb. And Amdouni got the 5th, his first ever goal for Switzerland. And, he is one of the players that is going to be the future of this Swiss national team. So, I was trying to keep an eye on a few of them. I think a few others. Obviously, Noah Okafor, who came off the bench as well as Denis Zakaria, who has been a consistent starter for 2 or 3 years now. But, he's still a young player and had, I would say, not an amazing season at Chelsea on loan from Juventus, I think he is. But when he's played, I've been impressed by him. So, it's not bad going for him this season, I don't think. But, it was one of them where Switzerland were just a class above Belarus, in all honesty. And, they made fairly easy work of them in the end. And, they came close to getting a 6th at the end of the game, hitting the post. I think it might have been Vargas or had he been subbed. I can't remember who it was, but they did hit the post when pushing forward to try to get the 6th. But just by far a class above Belarus is the truth of this game, to be honest. And Switzerland, I fully expect them to qualify for the Euros in 2024. They usually manage to qualify for these big tournaments. I think they've made every single one now since, I can't remember if they got to Euro 2012, but if they did, it might even be going back to like 2008 or even that far, which for a country who aren't the biggest, that's quite good going. And next we move on to what was the game of the weekend. Kazakhstan coming from 2 goals down to beat Denmark 3-2. An amazing result. And I think in the first half, Denmark were the better side. Højlund got 2 goals and showed that he can be lethal in front of goal, but also that he's a good player in build-up. And Kazakhstan, they were occasionally managing to get forward in the first half on a few occasions and cause a few problems, but it was going as I expected, to be honest. I thought, given how Kazakhstan played well against Slovenia but didn't manage to get a result, I wasn't expecting them to get anything out of this game. So that it was going as I expected up until around about half time. And one point I have made is how Brentford dominated this Denmark midfield was, with Mathias Jensen, Christian Norgard and Mikkel Damsgaard all in midfield, and they played well. Denmark did have control for the majority of the first half, and we're attacking forward well. And I mean, Joachim Mæhle at left back was playing more like a winger than a full back, so at times they were causing Kazakhstan a lot of problems, hence why they went 2-0 up. But in the second half, something changed. Denmark started to make a few substitutes. I think they got a bit complacent, to be honest, because Kazakhstan, they were the better side in the second half completely, and they were the better side for 20 minutes before they scored as well. And they got the goal. They got a penalty for what looked like it would probably be a consolation goal, and I don't think it was a penalty, if I'm being honest. I think it was very harsh on Vin, who it came off his shoulder/sleeve, so sort of like here. So for me, it wasn't really a penalty, I didn't think, but it was taken by Zainudinov. That's it. I completely messed up that, but yeah, it was Zainudinov who scored the penalty, took it well against Kasper Schmeichel, so fair play to him. Harry Kane couldn't score the penalty against Schmeichel for England v Denmark first time, but Zainudinov did. But yeah, there were a couple of good performers once again. I've been really impressed in the 2 games I've seen from Voroginski and Samorodov. I thought they've been absolutely brilliant in both games. But I mean, 85th minute, I'm just gonna, well, 85th and 88th minutes, I'm just going to show you my notepad. You can probably tell I make notes for these videos when they're not straight after the game, but I'm just going to show you what I've put. I don't know if you can see that, but oh my word and WTF, because I genuinely couldn't believe what I was seeing when it got to 2-2, and even then with 3-2, the equaliser from Tahi Bergen was absolutely unreal. To even think about attempting a shot from that distance, to have the balls to do it from, it's got to be 30 yards at least, and for it to go top corner, it was absolutely an amazing strike, and what a moment for Kazakhstan. And then 3 minutes later, when Aimbatov puts them 3-2 up, this has got to be a game that's, I would imagine, I don't know the history of Kazakhstan football too well, but I'd imagine this has got to be right up there for them, because this was an absolutely amazing game. To do this against what has got to be one of the world's highest ranked teams, I think, given their performances at tournaments recently. I know they had a disappointing World Cup just gone, but to get to, they got to the semi-final of the last Euros, they got to the quarter-final of the World Cup before that, so this is a very good team, and they've just managed to come from 2 goals down to beat them 3-2. And, it's just one of them where you go, football, what a game. And I know Aimbatov did get sent off in the 95th minute of stoppage time for handball. It was, that he did have his hand right up there, and obviously got booked earlier for taking his shirt off in celebration. But I'm sure he would have taken a red card if it meant that he scored the 90th minute winner to win his team the game. So yeah, what a result. And I mean, what a poor second half from Denmark though, because to do that against a team as low ranked as Kazakhstan from their point of view is awful. And then the final game I wanted to cover today was Portugal hammering Luxembourg 6-0. I think that's the best way to put this, to be honest. I think you'd have been a brave person to put money on Luxembourg winning this game, but yeah, it was just a demolition job, really. We did get to see the first of Roberto Martinez's free at the back system for Portugal. And I think there is one player in particular who will benefit a lot from this, and that is Nuno Mendes, who is very good going forward, very attacking wing back, and he managed to set up the first goal for Cristiano Ronaldo with a late run into the box. And I think one thing you can't criticise Ronaldo for, and I mean that sounds ridiculous saying that, because he is one of the greatest players of all time. He's definitely, I know, for me, I think Messi's the greatest of all time, but I definitely have Ronaldo in my top 5 greatest players of all time from what I've seen. And, his ability, he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. I'll give him that. But his ability to put away chances, sort his feet out in time, stay composed in front of goal, it is just, incredible, really. And I don't think we'll ever see anything like it ever again, to be honest. But, Portugal, they just continued in that vein, to be honest, scoring 2 similar-ish goals from João Felix and Bernardo Silva. The first one, lovely cross from Bernardo Silva and a brilliant diving header from Felix. And, Bernardo Silva was on the end of the third one, this time Paulinho being the person to assist him. And Ronaldo got another before half-time, and obviously that's game done and dusted at that point. But, it was still a good first half from Portugal. And they slowed the game down in second half, obviously. No need to absolutely go to town on Luxembourg. You've got the job done, really. But the substitutes, they came on and, had an impact on the game. Leao and Otavio in particular, they combined for the fifth. Otavio scoring the header to make it 5-0. And the impact in particular that Rafael Leao had on this game was incredible, really. And his speed over 10 yards, the acceleration to get up to top speed is phenomenal. He just eases past players, which it's unstoppable at times. Earned himself a penalty and couldn't put it away, though. It wasn't the greatest penalty ever, but I'll give Maurice, the Luxembourg goalkeeper, the benefit of the doubt, because it's tough to give Luxembourg positives in a 6-0 loss, but it was a good stop for the penalty. But Leao eventually got the goal he deserved with the way that he played when he came onto the pitch, latching onto a long ball from Ruben Neves and just cutting inside and dribbling past 2 or 3 players before tucking it into the bottom corner. And Portugal just too good for Luxembourg. I think that's just the truth of it, really, to be honest. That Luxembourg were never going to cause any problems in this game. But, Martinez is the manager of Portugal now, and we got to see what his team could potentially look like in upcoming tournaments. Ronaldo's still part of it, and I think people were expecting that if Fernando Santos or maybe someone who... Martinez, you sort of... with him having Ronaldo in the team, it sort of just feels quite right, to be honest, because of the way that the wing-backs contribute a lot more. Maybe this will suit Cristiano Ronaldo himself. I know it's hard to tell considering they've played 2 very poor teams in comparison to Portugal. But I was expecting if a different manager came over, then maybe the passing of the mantle might be to either Diogo Jota or Gonzalo Ramos. But it looks like Ronaldo's going to be the first choice, at least for the foreseeable future. I mean, he's still an amazing finisher, but you're just not going to get a lot of work off the ball from him. He's still an amazing goal scorer. That's definitely indisputable, I think. But there were some really impressive performances on show from Portugal, especially from Bernardo Silva, I thought, and Rafael Leao when he came onto the pitch.